Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for Dearly Departed, our look at the Premier League and our look at the teams I've been covering in the Championship that have found their way up there. We are talking Sheffield United, Aston Villa, Leeds, West Brom and Fulham. And even just by saying those names, you'll probably know it wasn't a very good weekend for the Dearly Departed, with a postponement of 4 defeats and a couple of them in quite gnarly manner in terms of last-minute goals and big defeats. But we will get onto that very, very soon. First of all, we'll just say thank you to Jay, our fan sponsor, Coyle, Dearly Departed, also known as Ben. Couldn't bear to lose this nice picture of Rafinha up there, but he, like the other Leeds players, was subject to a defeat. And if we bring up our results here, you will see what I mean by it not being a very good round. At the top there, Villa, we can't talk about them. They were postponed. They're the only Dearly Departed team not to lose. Burnley 1, Everton 1. There's our first one there. Manchester City 2, Fulham 0. Tough task for the Cottagers. They go down at the Etihad. West Ham 1, Manchester United 3. Then on Saturday night, we did the watch-along of Chelsea 3, Leeds 1. Then it got worse on Sunday. West Brom 1, Crystal Palace 5. And then a last-minute defeat. Sheffield United 1, Leicester City 2. Bad to worse, basically. Spurs 2, Arsenal 0, Liverpool 4, Wolves 0. And tonight, one more game that doesn't really concern us, so we can go ahead and do our reviews. Brighton and Hove Albion play against Southampton. So, they are our results. Let's look at our games. First of all, quickly on Aston Villa. We'll deal with them first. We'll work down the table. You can see a little bit of the Premier League statement. Obviously, some COVID issues up at Newcastle. Both clubs happy with the postponement. What that does mean now is Villa drop into the bottom half, and they do now have 2 games in hand. Remember, they already had the first game in hand, which because they were scheduled to play Manchester City on the first round of fixtures, but Manchester City playing in Europe, that meant that they got the extra week. I think Manchester United got the same, didn't they? They were due to be playing Burnley. So now we can add the Newcastle game in as a postponed one. Not sure when they're scheduled to be played. I should check the calendar, really. They're probably already in there. But that means Villa drop down into 12th, but with 2 games in hand. And you can see that, I know everybody does this with games in hand. They don't add a game on. They just add 3 points on, don't they? But you can see that Villa could move up the table with points in those games. But obviously, they've got to go out and get those points. So that does now drop Villa right down onto 12th place and into that group, you know, with Palace and Newcastle and Leeds and Arsenal down there looking 15th position. So that's all we'll say on Aston Villa. But 2 games in hand now. You can see it is a run of 4 defeats in 5. So sometimes it can be unhelpful that if the games stack up and the points haven't been on. But we've seen plenty of signs of sustainability for Villa. And I'm sure they'll take something from at least one of those games. Maybe not the Manchester City one, but we'll see, won't we? On Saturday night in the watch-along, it was Chelsea 3, Leeds 1. The 8 p.m. kickoff. We built it up as a classic English football fixture. Peter Osgood and Norman Hunter spring to mind. But now we build it up as the next instalment of the Bielsa versus Lampard head-to-head. Remember, amazing story down in the Championship with Lampard at Derby and Bielsa at Leeds and Spygate, and then the playoff semi-final as well. And Chelsea take the honours in this one, winning 3-1. Chelsea lining up there: Mendy, James Zuma, Silva, Chilwell, Mount, Kante, Havertz with Ziyech and Werner flanking Giroud, who had come in after scoring 4 goals in Europe in the midweek. Obviously, massively expensively assembled squad of players for Chelsea there. I think perhaps Lampard versus Bielsa financially was a bit more of an even match in the Championship, wasn't it? But I know that will be mentioned in the comments, so I thought I would throw that in there. But this is where Leeds are at now. Bielsa's done such a fabulous job that we don't mention that. We just expect him to go and be competitive with any team. And that is obviously a big credit to Bielsa and the journey that Leeds have been on. But obviously, there's going to be times this season where we just say, look, for goodness sake, look where Leeds have come from and what we're expecting. And that does need to be mentioned in the big picture thinking. There is the Leeds team there. Meslier in goal. Ailing-Cook, who's going to go off injured, and we're going to get to see Diego Llorente on 9 minutes. Cooper, Alioski, Harrison, Phillips, Dallas in central midfield again now, and Rafinha. I don't know why they've got Click in the number 10 positions. Obviously not the way they line up, with Phillips playing in this sort of deep line playmaker role and basically a midfield 4. Lots of rotation. Formation, schmormation, use whatever numbers you're comfortable with. It's a 4-1-4-1, isn't it? With Pat Bamford up the top. This game starts off, it is incredibly open, and I'm talking about only 3 or 4 minutes here. Chelsea get into the box, and then Giroud from a set play has a chance. But then Leeds take the lead here. That is Pat Bamford. He's now going to stroke that ball into an empty net. It was frenetic pace, this, and Leeds just really quickly counter. Calvin Phillips, who's just in superb form, is on the left wing. And what I love about this assist is he doesn't touch the ball. He runs, he judges, the ball's going towards. And he's all he's thinking about is the pass he's going to play. He's like, well, I don't even need to touch that. I'm just going to judge this. And he plays a beautiful pass around the back. Excellently executed by Phillips. Excellent execution by Bamford to touch it round Mendy and finish. Now, listen to what I've just said, because 2 things can be true. It was excellent from Phillips. It was excellent from Bamford. It's really poor by Mendy, the Chelsea goalkeeper. They exploit the fact that he charges out to the edge of his box, and then he stops. And then he kind of goes again out of the box and allows Bamford to go round him. I said this on the watch along. Just look, I saw a really good Twitter feed about come out, spread is the best way, and statistically the best way, because this guy, I forget who did the feed on Twitter, had looked at every single 1-to-1 striker versus goalkeeper 1-on-1 battle in the Premier League over like 5 years or something. And that is the way to do it. Staying put gives too much advantage to the attacking player. And obviously charging out, well, basically, if you don't get there, you either give away a goal or a red card, don't you? Because you then if you touch the player, they're going to go down. If it's outside the box, it's a guaranteed red card, isn't it? So I just think Mendy, if he comes there, he has to win the ball, else he's getting a red card or conceding a goal, essentially, most of the time, isn't he? So I do think he misjudged that, but excellent from Phillips. And the Bamford goal train carries on. So madcap start in this game. Chelsea do then get the equaliser, but not before Timo Werner. And I mean, we got a great still there. How has he missed? Well, it's fairly obvious how he's missed there, because he's got his right foot ahead of the ball and it hits his instep, and just any contact and he scores there. But I just thought I'd throw it up there. Incredible miss from Werner from on the goal line. However, there is Olivier Giroud, getting it absolutely right there and prodding it in on the near post. Even the most hardened Leeds fan would admit that Chelsea were probably good value for a goal in that first sort of period of the game. It's really good from Chelsea. Ziyech with good feet. He plays it to James, who fires it across the box, and Giroud just gets across the front and sticks it in. I'm in two things can be true mode again. Goodbye, James. Goodbye, Giroud. Jack Harrison, it's a quick attack. He just gets caught out. James is behind him. Harrison just gets suckered into the ball and Ziyech. And hindsight being 2020, if he just tracked his runner, he could have stopped the cross. But it is a little lapse by Harrison, but it is good attacking play by Chelsea. Again, two things can be true before you get all uppity defending Jack Harrison in the comments there. Or indeed praising Giroud and James. Whatever I say, someone disagrees in the comments. So there you go. We're into the second half now. I thought Leeds were more in it in the first half, I have to say. They looked more dangerous coming away. I thought Chelsea managed the second half quite well. And Leeds had less openings. Here's the second goal. You can see Zuma heads it in. And I have to say Leeds were a bit unlucky here because you can see is that Llorente with Giroud. And Cooper is just hitting the deck there. He would have been jumping with Zuma. I don't think there's any idea that it's a foul because everyone's watching the ball come over and look, players come together and Giroud's watching the ball, Cooper's watching the ball. I think their ankles clip. Cooper then goes down and I think it's just a bit bad luck, isn't it? Because then the huge Chelsea centre-back behind him has then got a 3-run and header is what it is. Players come into contact in the box. Doesn't always mean it's a foul. I think it's a bit of bad luck. And Zuma heads the ball in nicely. There is the final breakaway for the third goal for Chelsea. That is Timo Werner finally passing when in a good position. He could have scored about 4 in this game, I think. Werner. Meslier made a treble save. Well, I think it was a block and a double save. But Werner squares it for Pulisic, who puts it in. One thing we should mention that probably didn't affect the final outcome, but did happen at 2-1, was Poveda going into the box. And there's a sort of wafty leg goes in. I forget who the Chelsea defender was who put it in. And it makes contact with Poveda. I think I'm getting the right player there. It wasn't actually on the 2.5 minute Sky highlights I just took the stills from. But what I will say is if Poveda goes down there and VAR checks that, he would have got a penalty. We saw one with Robertson and Welbeck at Brighton and Liverpool. So precedent has been set. And remember, a couple of games back, we saw Alioski and Pepe, and we had the same conversation where Pepe, silly boy, leans his head in and gets a violent conduct red card. And of course, Alioski at that point drops down just to say, look, the guy's just put a headbutt in on me here. Can you check that one? So I think what I'm saying is if Poveda had been Alioski, Leeds would have probably had a penalty at 2-1. That said, in the grand scheme of the game, in terms of the big picture numbers, mightn't have changed us. But in the game state, it was 2-1, wasn't it? So maybe something there. We don't want to see players... what language can I use here? We don't want to see players faking contact and going down. We don't want that. That's abject cheating, isn't it? But where there is contact... I hate to say, you do have to draw the referee's attention to the contact, and that sometimes means you go down. And until we start to see officials be able to give decisions where the player hasn't gone down, or being brave enough to do that, then players are actually going to need to go down. So Poveda stayed on his feet and tried to keep going, but if he'd gone down, he would have got a penalty there, I think, at 2-1. All of that being said... I think Chelsea deserved to win, didn't they? And I think the numbers bear that out, don't they? Leeds 55-45 on the possession, but Chelsea missed a whole ton of chances, didn't they? 23 shots, 11 on target, and wow, 7 big chances to 1. If Chelsea had their finishing boots on in this one, they could have got a couple more goals. I mean, look, Werner missed from the goal line, didn't he? There was one with Meslier where a poor pass out, and Giroud missed one in the first half, didn't he? The triple chance for Werner, who just couldn't score in this game at all. So I think, like I say, even the most hardened, staunched I say leave your bias at the door. Maybe biased in terms of a confirmation bias. Obviously, Leeds fan would admit that Chelsea were pretty good value for the win. And do you know what? I've got my dearly departed hat on. So look, I am a bit pro Leeds. Obviously, I want all the dearly departed teams to come well. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Leeds. I think the way that they're playing and the way that they're taken to the Premier League means there are going to be days like this where they go out, they go open, they get a goal, they're competitive in a game, and they just get picked off by elite players. I mean, again, you've got to look at it. Kante, Thiago Silva, both of the England fullbacks. Giroud starting with Abraham coming off. Havertz and Werner were the big names transfers out of the Bundesliga after Sancho didn't go. So it is what it is. And I've said this before about Leeds. You've got the standoff of do you stick with this philosophy and play open in every game and try and win every game? Or do you, in some games, throw a double pivot in and maybe just tweak it a little bit? And if you did do that, what is the risk to reward? What would that take away at other times? I don't know the answer. I'm sure the plan A philosophy is so well honed that just the odd game on plan B, I don't know whether that's just, I don't know, you throw Struijk in next to Phillips and you go double pivot. I don't know whether that would disproportionately affect plan A in the games. I don't think it would. But I don't think they lose out too much. And I think they will win some games and get some points. Look, for God's sakes, they've taken a point off Manchester City playing open. It drew against Arsenal. Okay, Arsenal are a bit lower down. I think in the end, they will probably, Leeds, take some points off one of the traditional, big, huge hitters. And this season, we're talking Man City, Liverpool. Well, they've taken a point off Man City, haven't they? Chelsea, Tottenham, we have to include this season as well. So I wouldn't be worried. I think over the season, the key is better players coming in, raise the calibre of player because the pattern of play and the manager is excellent. So that would be my take. There's going to be games like this where they play against players with, squads with just frankly way more investment and way more high-end Premier League players than Leeds have at the moment. They'll probably get there over time, won't they? So I wouldn't be too worried. I know a lot of Leeds fans wanted to beat Lampard, but look, there's way bigger battles to be fighting for Leeds this season in terms of the big picture is establishing themselves as a Premier League club, and they seem to be doing that. So put it to one side, Leeds fans, and move on, I think, and I'm sure there'll be good weekends and good game weeks. And look what I'm about to talk about with the other dearly departed, and you'll see it's not all bad at Leeds. Chelsea 3, Leeds 1 it was this weekend. Right, Manchester City 2, Fulham 0 is our next dearly departed game. Fulham are still outside of the relegation area, which stop the clocks. They'll be very, very happy about if they can just survive. But obviously, look, Manchester City is starting to click now. De Bruyne is starting to click. Sterling's back in the team. Mahrez had a hat-trick. The slow start, I think, will now turn into a winning run. Aguero will be on his way back, won't he? Maybe some new centre-backs being bedded in there. Pep signed a new contract and away Manchester City go, I think. And it was 2-0 against Fulham. Our dearly departed there. Again, I'm not sure SofaScore's entirely right. The idea, I think, with their shape is that Bobby Reid is both an attacking player and a defending player. So not quite sure about putting him on the picture at wing-back. So I'm going to call it a back four, essentially, of Areola, Robinson, Adrabio and Anderson. Aina at right back with Reid getting back when they're out of possession. Anguissa and Harrison Reid, Bobby Reid I was talking about, obviously, the double pivot with Loftus-Cheek and Lookman essentially flanking Cavalieri. So I don't really think it's a 3-4-1-2. I think it's more a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Again, use whatever language you are comfortable with or numbers you're comfortable with. We get lots of people, lots of pedantry. We know where the players play on the pitch, don't we? We just want to fit into a nice formation, don't we? Man City, again, going through the Chelsea team, but look at the investment. Ederson, Cancelo, Stones, Diaz, Mendy, Rodri and Gundogan, and then the front four is just frightening, isn't it? Mahrez, De Bruyne, Sterling and Jesus. Keep that lot out and Fulham could not. De Bruyne in fine form in this one. He plays that one into Raheem Sterling, who gets the opening goal. And I'll bring you back to my comments on Poveda in the Leeds game. Sterling here, who I believe has won 20 penalties now, which is the most in Premier League history. He tells the referee that contact's been made by going down. Use whatever language you're comfortable with. Diving, showing the referee, whatever. But in my view, as long as it's not that there is no contact there and you're faking contact, I don't actually have a problem with it, because we've seen Poveda not show the referee the contact in the Leeds-Chelsea game and not get a penalty. So, which manager's happy there? Bielsa or Pep? Probably Pep. He's got the penalty and he's got Kevin De Bruyne to stick it in the corner with the right foot there. The highlights package I watched didn't show a single Fulham attack, to be honest. And look, no big chances, only one shot on target. Manchester City dominant in this one, nearly 800 passes they're going to put up, and the rest of the stats at nearly 70% possession. 6 big chances to 0. I'm always waxing lyrical about De Bruyne. Got him as captain in my fantasy team as well. He should have got more points in this one, because good save from Areola for a one-on-one, and he hit the bar as well. So De Bruyne starting to purr, Man City starting to purr. Fulham, big picture, it's a lot better, isn't it? They're outside of the bottom 3 and things are looking up. They've got a system of play, I've mentioned a few times, that doesn't include Kearney or Mitrovic, and they are more competitive. 2 wins in the last 5, obviously 3 defeats in there gives them 7 points. There's a low tide at the bottom. Obviously 7 points in 11 games is very poor, but this is a race. This is a race to not be in the bottom 3, and if that means that you get out of the bottom 3 with 29 points or 33 points or something this season, whatever, stay in the league, take that TV money. That's the name of the game, isn't it? And if you are losing 3 games in 5, as they have there, win the other 2. 6 points in 5, that'll do you. That'll keep you above the 1 point per game, which will seemingly easily keep you up this season, 38 points, given the bottom 3 have got 1, 6 and 6 out of 11 and 10 games. Surely that tide will rise even a little bit, won't it? If not, we're going to get absolute whipping boys down the bottom there of the table, and someone like Fulham or Burnley or West Brom or Sheffield United could stay up with not many points. Wins are vital this season more than ever with the low tide at the bottom. It was Manchester City 2, Fulham 0. Let's go on. Oh, ouch. West Brom 1, Crystal Palace 5. A 5-1 home defeat. Not going well for West Brom at the moment. Big mitigating factor with a red card in this one. But 5-1 home defeats need to be kept to a premium over the course of your club's history and the decades. And here is a big home defeat for the Baggies. They line up with the back 3 again. Bartley, Ivanovic, Ajayi. Let me know, Baggies fans, is that shape correct, or is this Bilic essentially doing what Scott Parker's been doing and playing Matt Phillips down the side essentially to clog it up in a defensive play and get forward in an attacking play? You let me know. So it could have been a 5, but it could have been a 4 with Furlong, orthodox fullback. Gallagher and Sawyers continue as a double pivot. Dean Garner comes back in for a start with Pereira and Grant off him. For Crystal Palace, Gaeta in goal, Klein, Koyate, Cahill, Van Aanholt, Schlupp and Eze wide. With my championship hat on, nice to see Eze getting some starts. MacArthur, Milivojevic in midfield with the brilliant Zaha. And Christian Benteke up top. He's going to get a couple of goals in this one as well. They've been a rarity for poor Benteke. However, what are these Twitter accounts called? Pictures that foreshadow unfortunate events or whatever it's called. There's one. Furlong, yeah, he's going to misread that. The cross goes in. Blurry picture, sorry, I can't tell you who's put the cross in. There, Furlong sticks out a boot. And when you're down the bottom and a player sticks out a boot to defend a cross, it often flies in your own net, doesn't it? And it's 1-0 from an own goal from Furlong. They're disappointing one because plenty of cover, no real attacking threat there. Maybe Johnston could even gather the cross. You overthink stuff when you're down the bottom, and maybe Furlong and maybe the defenders. We've said this before, too many defenders back, too crowded, means mistakes sometimes, doesn't it? And you do get more deflections and things of this nature when you are defending that deeply. Here's the equaliser though. That's cut back by Furlong, actually, you can see. So some redemption there. And Conor Gallagher, who is a bright spark for West Brom, scored a very similar goal, stroking the ball in against Sheffield United in the last game. And he scores in this one. I suppose the only down point of that bright spark is he's on loan. They don't own the player, but he's a player getting goals and starting games and getting Premier League minutes and doing quite well by the look of it. Gallagher with the goal there for 1-1. Oh dear. I hate talking about referees. I really hate talking about referees. And let me just level with you. All I want when we talk about referees is a balanced conversation. And on YouTube and in the comments, it's quite hard, I have to say. We do well on this channel because of the way I frame the content, and we're quite analytical. And a lot of the ranters and the ravers, they go and watch other channels. And without sounding snooty, I get a lot of smart football fans watching this channel, which I love. It's great. Obviously, I would love huge numbers, but would I love huge numbers and people just talking nonsense in the comments all the time when we can get a good debate on this? No. I'd rather have you guys, frankly, and a sensible debate. That said, we do still often disproportionately get the team that the decision's given for decrying it and the team that the decision's given to sort of endorsing it. That's just the nature of football and a little bit of bias. But this one did look to go against West Brom, didn't it? I have to say. So that's Pereira. He's laying down on his back. You can see his right foot there going into Van Aanholt. Although, I have to say, I've hit pause there at the point that it's closest. I'm not sure it hit Van Aanholt. That doesn't matter, I have to say, with violent conduct. You could genuinely swing a punch at a football player, completely miss and definitely be sent off if the football player either gets out of the way or your punch doesn't make contact. That said, let's just look at the violent conduct wording. Violent conduct is when a player uses or attempts to use excessive force or brutality against an opponent when not challenging for the ball or against a teammate, team official, or any other person, regardless of whether contact is made. So the key words in this is Matt Pereira attempting to use excessive force or brutality against, who's the Palace player? It's Van Aanholt, isn't it? In the most boring, soulless, by-the-book wording, well, what is he attempting? Is he attempting to kick out? Is he attempting to just get the player off him? He's attempting to do something. Is he attempting to use excessive force or brutality? I don't think so. Matt Pereira is the only guy who's going to know what is he attempting to do. Has he just been knocked over by a big strapping young man who's a professional athlete and he just wants to get him off him? Yes. Does that automatically make it excessive force or brutality? I don't know. Look, I try not to be one of those people who... Look, I started watching football in the very late 80s. I can remember some of it, early 90s. And this wasn't a red card then. That doesn't mean it's not a red card now. I'm not sure via the wording that it is a red card because we're talking about excessive force or brutality. Is it silly? Yes. Should he be doing this? No. Does it meet the standard for the criteria? I'm not sure. Has the referee got a get out? Yes, of course he has. If they appeal it, all the Premier League will say is Matt Pereira is attempting to use excessive force or brutality by kicking out. And that will be their get out. I don't want to see that being a red card, I have to say, from a subjective point of view and not that this matters anything other than it's my YouTube channel and I can give my opinion. I personally don't want to see that being a red card going forward. I also don't want to see players kicking out and petulantly doing this, that and the other. I mean, this makes David Beckham's one against Diego Simeone in 98 look like the most nailed on red card in the history of the world, because at least Beckham actually, made some contact. But again, contact isn't the issue. Anyway, I've rambled a long time on this. My final position is I can see them being able to get out of explaining it being a red card with the wording. Do I want this to be a red card when I'm watching football? Not really. But also, Pereira, don't do this again in the future, and you won't get red carded. That's for sure as well. Get your thoughts in on it. As I say, leave your bias at the door. Use the laws. My view is I don't want this to be a red card, but I can see them backing up their referee there, who did go and look at the screen, and Pereira has to take some culpability for actually doing it. But there you go. Moving on. This then really did stretch the game in Palace's favour. I mean, look at it. It's 11 v 10. It's Roy Hodgson, for goodness sake, who'll just sit and wait and punish your 10 men, won't he? And it's Pereira, who is West Brom's best player, essentially, isn't he? And definitely their chief attacking protagonist. There is Wilf Zaha. Great goal. And again, it's the type of defending. Johnston back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8 West Brom defensive players in that position, with Johnston as well. Yes, you've got the players back, but sometimes there's just too many in the way, and this deep block, if you've got a player of Zaha's quality, he'll just come in and hit it through the crowd like that, and Johnston can't save that, can he? It's in the corner. They haven't managed to close it down. 2-1. Keep up, guys. Here's 3-1. Cut back nicely, and Benteke stooping to head in. Again, plenty of West Brom players back, but it's the type of defending in your general team shape. Are you letting the other team onto you with that low block? You tell me in the comments. Great assist by Eze in this one. And again, deep block. If you've got Eze and Zaha who can dribble, you're letting them have a run at you from deep and then going through in tight spaces where those two players are brilliant and they combine and Zaha scores, and it's all getting a bit gnarly. And there is Benteke again. Goalkeeper back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 defensive West Brom players. Remember, there's only 10 West Brom players on the pitch. And Benteke drills that one in low. And it's 5-1. And can we move on from this one, for goodness sake? West Brom 1. Palace 5. Look at that. Only one big chance. I guess that was Zaha's one, wasn't it? Otherwise, an own goal and a header with pressure on and a worldie by Zaha and Benteke driving it in. But shots inside the box, 14. And you know how it's going to go with 10 men for much of the game in the Premier League, don't you? West Brom forced 4 shots on target to Palace's 7, 6 corners to 4. The possession exactly equal, 495 passes apiece. But oh dear, I mean, ouch. Look, there's a school of thought for West Brom that you just write it off, don't you? You say it was a red card and that's changed the game and you move on. And maybe that's the right thing to do, and use that as motivation. Say we were hard done to by the red card. But not going well for West Brom. They are on a very poor points total of 6 in 11 games. So if that was 12 games, that would be half a point per game, which is obviously projecting 19 for the season if we just move that one game along, if they do lose the next game. Not good enough. It's going to be relegation. But as I said about Fulham, the only caveat is there's 4 teams in this whipping boys position at the moment, which means, as it stands, West Brom and the other 4 teams down there in the other 3 teams, down there in the bottom 4, just have to be better than the 3 other teams down there, and that will give hope to all of them. Obviously, that's not ideal because you're talking about not being very sustainable in most seasons, and this hopefully getting you over the line in this season, where you might get the anomaly of 4 teams getting not very many points and you just being the best of 4 bad teams. We will see. Moving on. West Brom 1, Palace 5. And, oh dear, would you genuinely, Sheffield United fans, at this point in time, would you rather lose 5-1 than again lose in the last minute? Sheffield United 1, Leicester 2. So depressing talking about Blades at the moment. And Chris Wilder, I watched his whole post-match. He's very honest, and it's the club interviewer, so he's not trolling Wilder. He starts to say fine margins, and Chris Wilder just interrupts him and says, no, I'm fed up of this. I'm fed up of fine margins. We just have to be better. And I guess I am too, because I've apologised for Blades many times this season. Think about even just the last game. They had a ton of chances against West Brom and got nothing. And then the 2 glaring ones, John Egan getting the red card against Villa, and they got nothing. And David Luiz not getting the red card, and they got nothing. But I'm ending every single analysis in short form of these games by saying, and they get nothing. And there's a point, in Chris Wilder's words, where they just have to be better and get something out of these tight games. And for whatever reason, they are fine margins, but they're not being good enough to get anything with the fine margins. And there are plenty of other teams, and dare I say, when we talk about the Championship, Norwich in the Championship, who we study in, who went up with Blades in 18-19, they're winning every game where they've got fine margins in, let alone losing them. So obviously, look, comparing Norwich in the Championship and Sheffield United in the Premier League is apples and oranges, isn't it? Because one team's expected to win a lot and it's more difficult for Sheffield United in the Premier League. But you take my point, don't you? It can go one of 2 ways, and you can win games with fine margins as well. That's not happening for Sheffield United. The latest in the strategy here, well, he's kept it fairly similar to the last game, in that Lundstrom in for Norwood is the only change really against that Leicester midfield. Ramsdale, the back 3 is Basham, Egan, Brian, so he starts again. Still missing Jack O'Connell, but what are you going to do? Can't, Jack O'Connell's magic, he wears a magic hat. You can't magic him back. Got to play without him. I need to, and we all need to just stop talking about it in the end. He's not there. I know he's an excellent player, but he's not there. Lowe and Baldock are the wing backs then. Fleck, Berger and Lundstrom. So, I mean, he seemingly is making all the right calls. You take Norwood out to get a bit of extra physicality against a good double pivot in Tielemans and Mendy there. And it hasn't worked. Burke and McBurney up front. Leicester, Schmeichel, Fofana, Evans and Fuchs, Justin and Albright and the wing-backs, Tielemans and Mendy, and then Perez, Maddison and Vardy. What we'll say about Leicester is they've got Vardy, who's just a brilliant player, isn't he? But then you do see them rotate with Pratt and Under. In this game, Maddison and Perez. That doesn't even include Barnes. So you have to say Brendan Rodgers, very intelligent with his rotation. He set up the team where the danger men are obviously Vardy. I mean, go figure. But then the 2 players playing, he can keep them fresh, and there's quality in there. I mean, Maddison's a brilliant player, isn't he? So is Barnes, and Under and Pratt have done things. And then Perez coming in and scoring in this one. Was he 30 million? So, well done, Rodgers. But we know he's a clever, experienced manager now, don't we? And there is Perez. Bit of a lucky bounce, but Jamie Carragher nailed it in the co-coms on this. He said it's a lucky bounce, but they've been good value for it. Albrighton's shot deflects. And Egan, is that? No, it's not Egan behind. I can't see who that is doing the block. Is it Baldock who's tucked in? Excuse me if I've got that wrong. Number 2 on the back. I think it is. Let me know, sorry, in the comments. And Perez just rifles the volley in. Ramsdale gets a hand to it, but he's hit it so hard that Ramsdale can only parry it into the goal. However, Blades do get back into it there. McBurney, look at that for a nice climb from the corner. He's very good in the air, McBurney. I do have to say that. He's a quite interesting hybrid sort of player, isn't he? Because you can knock the ball into him like that. But he's a fairly skillful player as well. I remember thinking that when he was playing for Swansea in the Championship, scoring, did he get 25 that season? Very good season before Sheffield United signed him. He gets the header in, and having not had their shooting boots on, Sheffield United in the last game, it's nice to see a striker get a goal. And we talked about how can Sheffield United get out of this. Well, they need to score goals, so sticking a striker in, leave him be. Maybe it ends up with Brewster partnering him, I don't know, or McGoldrick. Maybe Billy Sharp gets some sub minutes, I don't know. They've currently got Ollie Burke in there, who's a bit more physical and a bit more of a runner. Who knows? But leave McBurney in there now, give him a run maybe. That might help, but what won't help is conceding a last-minute chance to Jamie Vardy, who's obviously just going to sprint in behind as decisively as he's done for 5 or 6 seasons now. Goal machine, Vardy in behind. And of course he scores, and Wilder was furious, saying he did dig out Chris Basham a little bit, saying he has to be better with his feet, and they have to not let this happen from their attacking throw-in on 90 minutes. And again, fine margins, and yes, I agree with Wilder that you need to shut up about fine margins in the end when you've got 1 point from 11 games, because they just haven't done it. And it is gnarly now, isn't it? Let's have a look at the numbers for this game. Leicester 71% on the possession, 13 shots to 4. Only 2 big chances, but Blade's not making any big chances. But look, let's forget this game, and you just got to look at the table. 11 played, 0 wins, 1 draw, and you start to think, look, just forget about the narrow margins or whatever, and look at that table. This is so hard to come back from now, isn't it? So if you think about it, and even if I do say it's a low tide season, let's say they have to get to 40 points still. I don't think it will be that many. I think someone could survive in 17th with less than that, given if none of those 4 teams have a really good run, then it could be a really low total. But, let's use an easy number. So there are 27 games left. Even to get to 45 points now, Sheffield United will have to hit 2 points per game, which is really, really decent form. Who's got 2 points per game at the moment? Chelsea in 3rd place. So we're starting to get to the point where it doesn't matter how good a manager Chris Wilder is. It doesn't matter if we get a turnaround. It starts to get to the point where it's just too difficult, where you need a team that's at the bottom of the league to score 1.6 or 1.7 points per game. And they're not going to do it, because that would make them, again, 9th place or something like they were last season. I remember saying this about Brentford in the chase last season in the Championship, where we were basically saying they needed to win 10 straight games to go up. And as much as it annoyed Brentford fans, and I'm a big fan of Brentford, it was too hard. The task they left themselves to do was too hard. And that's the analogy I can draw to Sheffield United. It's going to be too damn hard. If you go on, even if it's 15 games, and say they win 1 and draw 1 and lose 3 of the next 4 games, lose 2 of the next 4 games, they would be on 5 points off 15 games. It's still going to be too hard. So they just desperately need to start winning. If they're going to survive now, they're going to need to, I can do the extrapolations, they're going to need to score 1.5 or something going forward, unless all of these 4 teams down there, Fulham, Burnley, West Brom, carry on at the same rate. And that's the hope for all of them, isn't it? That either they all carry on at the same rate and someone can survive, or someone above them, Brighton, can't see Arsenal or Leeds doing it, Newcastle, Aston Villa, it's not going to happen, is it? You need one of those teams to have a run now over the next 11 games, like Sheffield United have had, but only score 1 or 2 or 3 points or something over 11 games. So that does seem to be the only hope. So it's very gnarly for Sheffield United. How do they do it? pass. I don't know. Keep McBurney in. Keep it consistent. Hope O'Connell comes back. Stevens will come back. And hope that they start picking up some points. And fingers crossed that none of the teams down there go on a good run. And that's the way it is now for 3 of our dearly departed, as in Sheffield United, West Brom and Fulham. That's the hope for all 3. Leeds and Villa obviously looking way more viable than these 3 down the bottom. Woof! It was Sheffield United 1, Leicester 2. And that was a tricky dearly departed for me to do. Get your thoughts in via the comments. Tough one, guys. Tough one. A bad week for the dearly departed. Look, they were playing Chelsea, Man City and Leicester in 3 of those games. And Roy Hodgson is Roy Hodgson, isn't he? So let's hope there are better weeks. And we had last week, what did we have? 3 wins and a draw last week in the 4 games. And, you know, one of them was between 2 dearly departed teams, of course. Sorry, Villa did lose in the end, didn't they, last week? But we got some points last week. Maybe we're paying in karma or something. And the universe is balancing itself out vis-a-vis the dearly departed. There you go. Thanks again to Jay, who is our dearly departed fan sponsor. Dearly departed, also known as Ben couldn't bear to lose us. And I couldn't bear to lose the support of people that watch this channel. People like Jay, obviously, who's a high-end fan sponsor. Brilliant. Thank you, Jay. Also, everyone who's subscribed on Patreon and everybody who's bought some merchandise from the Teesprings store. That's a great way to support. If not, please hit the subscribe button. We've grown to around 13,360 or something on the channel, which I'm overjoyed about, and we need to keep it growing. My long-term goal, to be completely transparent, is to do this for a living. We're getting there, but once the government grants stop, we won't quite be viable yet. I always talk about the viability of football teams. Talk about the viability of me for a second. So keep watching, keep subscribing, and while those numbers keep growing, there's a chance we can do this. And I thank each and every one of you for your brilliant support. As I say, my subscriber base here is brilliant. All I wanted is for this to be a really good place to debate football. Yes, I love the emotion. I love the terraces. I love forward, get rid of it, we was robbed, whatever, Arsenal Fan TV, ripping their mics out every time they could see the goal. That's great. That makes football. It's not how I want to discuss it after the fact, though. I want us to, you know, have a good, balanced, sensible, reasoned conversation. And I think that's what I'm aiming for, and that's what we're getting on here. So thank you, each and every one of you who have subscribed. And with all that being said, that was a rather depressing dearly departed in isolation, but hopefully you're going to keep watching the season. And we will be back, what have we got dearly departed wise, with the preview. That'll be on Friday. We might do that live at sort of 1 p.m. or something for round 12. And then we're going to do Wolves and Villa, I think, at 12:30, and on Saturday as a watch along. And then I think we've got 2 actually, Fulham and Villa at the weekend for the watch along. So plenty of dearly departed stuff. Stay tuned for that. And it's over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.